It's Sunday night, it's the Cop Council. I'm your host Craig, and I'm joined tonight by Cash, by Daz from On The Bench LFC, and of course by Chris. We're going to start where we always start, and that is with listeners' questions. Daz, mate, I'm putting you under the gun. This is a really, really good question, I have to say. It was sent in by Francis Cottam, so thank you for that one. So if Russell Crowe seems to be an obvious movie choice to play the Spurs manager Pochettino, who would play Jurgen Klopp?
It's a really, really good one. I don't know, because for me he's a bit of a mixture, because he's all over the place. I've got a hint of like Clint Eastwood in there, and one of my favourites, like I said before, like Jim Carrey, because he's a man of many faces and he's all over the place on the touchline and that, and he's hilarious at the same time. So yeah, I want to mix him up a little bit, Clint Eastwood and Jim Carrey. I think if you added both them together, you've got Jurgen Klopp for me. So yeah, does that count? Can I do that?
Why not? Why not? I absolutely think, by the way, that Jim Carrey could play anybody. If he put his mind down to it, he could method act the fuck out of it and play anybody, whoever he wanted.
Yeah, agreed.
Cash, I'll come to you next. So who for you would be the correct acting choice to play Jurgen Norbert Klopp?
You know what? My initial thought when you said it was Owen Wilson. I know that's like really bad because he's not like super fit in that, but there's just something about the fact that he's obviously got that kind of similar shade of hair. He's quite tall, a little bit gawky. I don't know. And he's quite a comedic actor. So for whatever reason, that was what came into my head initially. So that was, but again, like Daz, I kind of want like a hybrid of two different actors because he's got so many elements to his personality. So I'm going to mix someone uncool like Owen Wilson, like with someone like really cool. I'm trying to think of who I know that's really, really cool acting wise. Jake Gyllenhaal is pretty cool. I'd let him manage my football team. I feel like he's pretty sound. So I Jake Wilson or Owen Gyllenhaal can play Jurgen Klopp, because I think you've got like the elements of like one kind of looks like Jurgen Klopp and the other one's pretty sexy. So yeah.
When you said Owen Wilson, I thought to myself, why does Cash hate Klopp? What has Klopp done to Cash? Like the man from the sofa adverts.
It's just the similarity in terms of the fact they're both quite tall and slender and like with the blonde hair. I do not hate Jurgen Klopp. He is a better role model to me than my own father ever was.
I think you've just ruined Zoolander for me now, by the way. I don't think I'll ever be able to watch Zoolander again without seeing Klopp in that film.
In fairness, I probably ruined sofa buying for you.
No, I just bought one of them recently enough, so I was okay. I got that one out of the way before you ruined it. Chris, for you, buddy, and I know you've been thinking long and hard. I've been watching your physical expressions and your facial expressions while the others have been talking. So, mate, give me an answer. Who have you got?
I was just imagining Owen Wilson playing Jurgen Klopp in a film. And instead of boom, you'd be like, wow, and all weird about it. I don't know.
But you're not imagining Klopp and Marley and me instead, no?
Yeah. I'm going to go Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm thinking Wolf of Wall Street kind of thing. Not like the drug-induced mess part. He gets pumped up, doesn't he, in it? He's funny, he's manic. I can imagine. And Leonardo DiCaprio can act the shit out of anything, can he? I know he doesn't look like him, but you know,
he always
few prosthetics here and there. I think you pull that off. Yeah.
Good answers, guys. I've been thinking about this as well while you've been doing it, and I've been trying to think of the name of an actor. So I've been Googling, and there we go. So I'm going to go for a mixture, and this is a bit fucked up, but I'm going to go for Brad Pitt, and here's why. Do you remember Brad Pitt in Moneyball? When he kind of grows that beardy look to him, and he's got that scraggly blondie sort of hair. I can imagine Brad Pitt, but I kind of mix. I mean, you all have been going with hybrid, so I've been kind of mixing in a bit of Matthew McConaughey in there as well somehow. A scruffier looking Matthew McConaughey. That was the best I could come up with.
Matthew McConaughey is really cool.
He is. I love Matthew McConaughey. He's a good actor.
He's too cool. Even Jurgen Klopp's cool, and even he's not Matthew McConaughey cool, is he?
Oh, Matthew McConaughey is so fucking cool. Like I would marry him. Like he's just everything that's good.
I feel like this is something I'm doing a stream when we finish this podcast, guys. I feel like this is a question I have to put out there because somebody is going to absolutely nail this. Somebody is going to give us an answer where you just go, oh yeah, how do we not think of that one? The next one comes in from Chris, from our very own Chris. But it was such a good question that I thought, you know what, fuck the listeners, let's just get Chris's question in here. Fuck all the people that take the time to contact us, reach out there hoping to have their question on the show. We said, nah, fuck them. We'll go with Chris. Daz, what Chris wants to know is, what's the one app you have on your phone that you couldn't live without? Apart from Tinder.
Damn.
I'm actually going to get my phone up in front of me now to have a look, because it's a difficulty. I'm torn because I'm new to like social media and that, and I must admit, since I've got on Twitter, I find that most of my life, first thing in the morning I wake up, I'm on Twitter because I want to know what's the latest with Liverpool, who's chatting shit about Liverpool, you know, what you guys are up to on Twitter. But then I think as well, it's got to be my banking app as well, because I want to keep a close eye on what my missus is up to with my card. You know what I mean? Like, she's an early bird, so if she's out the door before me, or say she might have swiped my wallet, but I can keep an eye on what she's spending. So yeah, one of those two for me.
And for Cash, what about you? Are you going to be as anal as that and worried about how much money's leaving your bank account, or are you in a position in life where you just don't care, or you're like me and you know there's nothing in there anyway?
Transferred everything across like an ISA that I can't touch for like 3 years or something. I'm just looking again at my phone. I would say, I mean, Twitter as well. Obviously, the social media ones are like obviously a given, except for Facebook, which I don't really rate. But I've got, you know what, this is going to sound so nerdy, but I use a notepad app to keep a note of like everything I spend. So like all my transactions, like I make a note of everything, and you know, because I don't know if anybody else's bank does this, but like if you make a transaction, it'll come off your available balance, but not your bank balance straight away. So then that confuses me, and I like to know where my money's going and in what order, because I ain't no oligarch yet. So therefore, that's probably one of the that's the app that's on my screen now, and I have it locked in, i.e. it doesn't move even if I try and swipe it away, which kind of indicates its level of importance to me. But then beyond that, podcast app is always open on my phone, like so when I had an iPhone, like it was just, you know, the podcast app on that, and then now it's Pocket Casts because I've got an Android. So yeah, those would be the two that I can't live without. Yeah,
I'm glad you said the podcast one as well. That's a good show. Chris, for you, buddy, what would be the app? Your question, so I'm expecting an absolutely blinding answer.
It's not really a blinding one.
Either that or Chris has just launched a new app that he's trying to plug one or the other.
No, just WhatsApp. I just think it makes life so much easier. Just makes life so much easier. Yeah, look at when you're organising things for these pods and that, you know, get us in a group, talk to us, you can send pictures, GIFs.
Is there anything better than muting
can make calls
on WhatsApp though?
Anything better than what?
Like if you like don't like being in a group but you don't want to leave the group because you don't want to be rude, I love muting it and being like mute 1 year.
Oh yeah. What I love about it is, you know, when you kind of don't want to reply to a message, so you see it on the notifications pop up on your phone, you try and read it all so you don't have to go into the WhatsApp to read it, because then the blue tick appears and people have known that you've seen it. If you don't want to reply, you get a notification flash up on my phone for a second, it lasts about 2 seconds. I try and catch the entire message from that so I don't have to look at it sometimes, so I can pretend I'm busy.
It does make life easier though as well, doesn't it? I've got an honourable shout for Google Maps though. I use it as a sat nav when I do a lot of travelling, and it's perhaps the best sat nav you can have. But
it's fucking brilliant. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely brilliant. I've never gone wrong with Google Maps anywhere. It's brilliant.
Never let you go. Yeah, but it's WhatsApp. WhatsApp for me. So I can put social media down and come back to it as and when I feel like. It's not a big deal, but my WhatsApp is always in use. The other thing with WhatsApp as well, it doesn't seem to be like a generational thing. So obviously some people of a certain age or whatever won't use Facebook Messenger or won't use like Instagram. I mean, I use them all, but everybody seems to use WhatsApp. So yeah.
It is a really just convenient like way of keeping it. Like I don't really text anyone.
No, I don't think I do. It's just WhatsApp.
And it's free.
I don't even know. I don't even know how to use WhatsApp properly. So you guys all use it. I don't even use WhatsApp. Like you guys were talking about when a message pops up and a tick or whatever. I don't even understand all that. I literally
You're meant to
know.
keep quiet, keep the lack of credibility on the DL.
I only figured out the other day you can have a group call on WhatsApp. I didn't realise that till the other day.
It's not just like a
I don't know
virtual
none of
call.
that.
I don't want it.
It was handy for us because we were having a meeting with somebody in Australia, so we needed to kind of keep the costs down of the call, and there was no way it was fucking ringing a mobile in Australia. I was looking at my phone while you were talking, and I'm so anal that for me it's either the Podbean app or the YouTube Studio app, because I'm looking at stats constantly on my phone to see what numbers pods are doing and what numbers streams are doing and how we're going on YouTube and all that type of stuff, and that takes over pretty much every spare minute because, as Daz, I'm sure you know as well, it's everything like works from these numbers. These numbers are the most important things in your life outside of family when you're making content, because these numbers are the key to unlocking the future, or these numbers are the key to honing in on the right people. So I'm forever looking at demographics, I'm forever looking at nationalities, so many other things with pods, what type of platform people are listening on, just all trying to get the right style of content at the right time out to the right people. So I wish I had a fun answer, but I don't. And I slagged Daz off for having a big anal answer at the start, but I'm worse than you, buddy, so I do apologise. The final question kind of brings us around to Liverpool rather nicely, and this one comes in from Dave Trainer. So what are your thoughts on the media's push for Liverpool to win the league this season? Say, for instance, we were to finish outside the top two, the media would portray it as an absolute failure. So Daz, what's your thoughts on that one, buddy? Do you think there is excessive pressure being pushed towards Liverpool for them to really challenge Manchester City this season?
I think there's. I've been speaking about this a lot recently, like on my channel, because I think the expectation for Liverpool to try and win the Premier League and to win silverware is there every year if you're a Liverpool supporter. I think I've always expected every season going into it to try and see Liverpool try and win. I think this year the reporters and pundits and stuff are trying to add this pressure on because they're talking about how much Liverpool are spending on certain players. But for me personally, Liverpool are spending this now because that's what it costs to sign certain players in today's market. I think it's, the goalkeeper, Alisson. We needed to go out and sign a goalkeeper so that hopefully we can forget about the goalkeeping situation for many years. And we might not have to go and sign another top goalkeeper for the next 4 or 5 years, which then, in 2 years' time, the fee that we did pay for Alisson may be an average fee for a goalkeeper. So I think it's ridiculous when I see people out there say, oh yeah, if Liverpool don't win, the Premier League, that question should be asked of Jurgen Klopp. I think as long as you see the progression, as long as you see that Liverpool are challenging and, that all the players are trying their hardest, and if Liverpool concentrate on our own game this year and every week give it their best to try and win the 3 points, and if at the end of the season, say City, for instance, did beat us over the league, over the full season, and they finished top, then fair play to whoever that was. If it was City, fair play to them. But yeah, that's what I expect from Liverpool every year. It's to try and be competing for the Premier League. It's to try and to win some silverware. We're Liverpool Football Club. That's an expectation. We're signing smart. It's not just about spending. This is what I don't like when I'm seeing certain pundits say Liverpool spent a lot of money, so if they don't do well, then questions should be asked. No, we're signing the right players to help us achieve things. We're not just going out there and spending 200 million for the sake of it. We're going out there and spending money to bring in players, key players, to help us to build a squad, but not just for this season. It's not just about trying to win this season. It's about moving forwards. It's about a project, and that's what Klopp has said since he's come in. That's the progression that we've been seeing on and off the pitch. The club is moving forwards. So I think if we did fall short this year of the Premier League, if we didn't win silverware this year, as long as I still see a progression on and off the pitch, as long as we're still moving in the right direction, then I will still be happy as a Liverpool fan, as long as we see that we are still trying to win things. And then it's about keeping your best players moving forwards as well, and still adding to that in the future. So yeah, I think the expectations is always there as a Liverpool fan, and it will be the same next year. It's no different to any other year for me.
Cash, looking at this purely from the media side of things, how much of a headache has the money been for Jurgen Klopp that he spent this summer? How much has that 170 odd million or whatever it is, how much has that added to the pressure or the ease of which it is for the media to point at him and say, well, look, you spent this amount this summer. Surely that means that you have to go and do this, this and this.
Well, I think the thing with money is that it invariably comes with strings, doesn't it? So, the thing with what Jurgen Klopp has done previously is that anything that was going to be won despite the relative lack of resource supplied, in contrast with the clubs that were winning the trophies regularly, Man City, especially Man City. However, I think with money there comes conditions. Those conditions sort of being stipulated by the media. That's the funny thing. It's no one knows what the board has said to Jurgen by way of what the demand is in response to getting this money to spend. So on one hand, the money is conditional, and it does create pressure that maybe didn't exist before. But on the other hand, what do you do? Not spend the money and then just definitely not win things year on year? I think it's an interesting sort of creation by the media and probably by other clubs that are threatened by a rise. It's this thing of, well, shit, we haven't had this stick to beat them with in, well, ever really, and now we do, and now we've got to racket up the pressure. What I would say is that I think this Liverpool era has come at an unfortunate time for Liverpool, in the sense that this current Liverpool team in any other year would win the Premier League, I think, if it wasn't for how wonderful Man City are. You're putting that Liverpool team as it stands in any other domestic league, including Serie A, including Spain. I think Liverpool win, and I think they win it at a not at a canter, but they win that league. So this money that has created all this pressure, probably isn't going to be a full ranging resolution, because we've now assembled a fantastic team at the same time as an already fantastic team are enjoying a real period of dominance, which has only really just started and looks set to continue. So yes, there is pressure. There was always pressure. It has been intensified by the money spent. The money spent had to be spent to make us an equal force. We've already got the manager to make us an equal force. We needed the personnel to do the same thing. And this Liverpool team is now wonderful. I think if we don't win trophies, I don't think it'll be because of the managerial weakness or, bad recruitment or any of those things. It may well just be because Man City, particularly domestically, they look almost unbeatable, 2 games in already. So yeah, my answer would be, it is a media construction. It has been sort of racketed up. It has been enhanced, but we've got the right people at the club, player and manager wise, to deal with it. And that pressure will all be laughed at if Liverpool bring home silverware. So we've just got to embrace it.
As you touched on there, Cash, we don't do things easy. We come out with possibly the best squad or the best team we've had in the last 15 or 20 years. And as you rightly said, we're up against a team who've put 100 points on the board for the first time in the history of the Premier League. So it's certainly a massive mountain to climb. But Chris, we have spent the money. We do have a great manager. That squad has improved, and we certainly are capable of beating every single team in that league. So surely, mate, as much as it kills me to say this, or pains me to say this, we probably should be expected to be challenging for the title.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. And I think, like Daz said, there's always been that expectation, and what it's been is expectation versus realisation. Whilst we've always had that expectation, we've always realised that we were a rung or two down on the ladder from, let's say, Manchester United or Arsenal at certain times, Chelsea at certain times, and up until recently Man City. Whereas right now there's a realisation that we're up on that very same rung of the ladder. The money does have to be taken into account to a certain degree. Where I don't agree that the money should be taken into account is that it's almost like they're ignoring the fact that you've got an £8 million left back, a 19-year-old freebie through your ranks at right back, a 32-year-old freebie in midfield, playing alongside a £20 million player who came from a relegated side. who had been written off but as being average by everybody. So, and if you look at a front three, yes, it costs 90 million. But if you look at, let's say, Manchester United, who were now being deemed as being better than in the media, and I think we would all agree with that, they've got a forward who, if you take any combination of two of our front three, he costs more than them. So, in relative terms, I think we spent quite averagely. But what we have done is we've spent 170 odd million on top of what we already had in place in terms of our playing staff last season, where we finished the season and everybody in unison said they're Man City's challengers next season. We've added 170 million pounds worth of the talent on top of that. And I think if that doesn't make you a challenger, I don't know what will. But I think that's all it does make, is it makes us a challenger, because, like Cash just pointed out, Man City are quite exceptional. If you were to look at the starting lineup of Manchester City and our starting lineup, again, if I just reeled off those players, if you were to take all of the money spent and average that out per head around the team, I'd imagine our average spend per player is a lot lower. So therefore, their size should be a lot better. If we're just using money as the barometer. But I think what we've got is a group of players who, and we've talked about this before, who are all very talented. They're very together. They're all on the same page. They've all bought into what their world-class manager has told them, has taught them, and has got them executing week by week on the pitch. And we're in a really good place, and everybody can see that. And that has made everybody sit up and go, Liverpool or Man City's title challengers. And I think we should enjoy that, because we've not had that. I think inside the camp, as Liverpool fans, in the past, we've looked at our side and gone, this is a good side. We've got Gerrard, we've got Torres, or we've got Alonso. But deep down, I think we all knew we were always probably short. Whereas right now, I think everybody outside the club is on the same page as us and seeing the team how we see them, which is another exceptional team to take on Man City. If we don't get the title, I don't think that's failure. I do agree with, I think, in the opening statement that you mentioned there, people have said if we finish outside the top two. I do think that would be failure. I really do. I think we are outright the second best side in the country, and we need to show that throughout the season. I think we've got the tools to do it, and that's what we should be aiming at. Outright winning the title, we've got no right to that. We really are. I don't think Man City have got a right, but they've got more of a right to it than us, and I think that's what we're aiming at. We're aiming at closing that gap, and as Daz pointed out, showing progression. I think that's all we can do at the moment, regardless of how much money we've spent, because Man City are exceptional.
When you were talking there, you start speaking about midfielders, naming off midfielders and stuff, and in my head, all I had gone through my head was, we've got the best midfield in the world. Xabi Alonso, Momo Sissoko. That was just going through my head when you were talking.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, if you think back to that side, we that probably was the best collection of midfielders in one team in the world at that moment in time. What did it win? And because as a team, as a collective, no, you can't just look at a handful of players, because a handful of players, and if we had just spent that 170 million on one player, so let's say, for argument's sake, we managed to get Neymar in for 170 million, that one player. Yes, he's a fantastic talent. Yes, it's a lot of money, so it's the same amount of money. But that one player is not going to do it. You've got to build a side and then build a squad around that capable of challenging for the title, and we're still in that process as far as I'm concerned. I just think we're a lot closer than we were last year. And last year we were a damn sight closer than we were the year before. So it's just about progress right now. But I think progress is staying in that top, is being in that top two and challenging Man City.
I just realised I said before I went to Chris, I was speaking about the media expectations and stuff, and I said, it pains me to say this, but we probably should be challenging for the title. And then I thought to myself, why the fuck is it paining you to say that, dickhead?
No,
that's exactly what you've been wanting to say for a long time.
I don't know why we're complaining.
Someone pulled up on Twitter the other day, like a screenshot of what Roy Hodgson said when we got beat by Blackpool back in, like, I guess 2010, and it was the headline was something like Liverpool not too big for relegation battle, and I think that just completely embodies the fact that, like, that's like 8 years ago that was actually being said by our manager. So why the fuck should we not enjoy this? Because this is more realistic in respect of where we should be. So yeah,
fucking Roy Hodgson. Daz, I want to have
How much airtime do you think was given to Manchester United losing tonight on radio call-ins, like on 5 Live, Talk Sports, so on and so
don't know,
forth?
but I'm recording Match of the Day too, just to see how they react to it.
Exactly. It'll be given so much airtime. It'll be back page news tomorrow. Why? Because they're so big. Because the media, who we're having a go at putting pressure on us, hold them in high regard, because going into every season they regard them as challengers, and because they don't appear to be now, they're being shot at. If you're in the media glaze, you're there for a reason. Or in the media gaze, you're in there for a reason. You've arrived, and I think we should enjoy that fact.
I'm almost expecting to read headlines like Pogba's heroic last-minute penalty, not enough to save Manchester United. That's the type of shit I'm expecting to read.
Paul, his actual interview afterwards was like, yeah, her attitude wasn't right. Like, I thought that was very revelatory. The whole thing, like, it's embarrassing for them. Like, it's all falling apart, which obviously is to her delight.
Fuck him. Daz, want to have a little chat about Sadio Mane. How brilliant is it now that the club look like they're about to tie down Sadio Mane if rumours from the media or articles written by the media during the week have stated that he seems close to tying himself down to a new deal? We also have Mo Salah tied down, Sadio Mane tied down hopefully, and of course Bobby Firmino now tied down. How brilliant is it to see the club not just tying these players down for the peak years of their career at Liverpool, but doing what the fuck they said they do, which is reward these guys for hitting these benchmarks, for improved performances, and for consistently playing at a higher level.
It is fantastic. It's acting like Liverpool have always been a big club, but it's acting like a top club, like what we were all just saying then. Expectations. These players that sign for Liverpool, they will be expecting Liverpool to act in a certain way. And we've spoke a lot in the past on these podcasts about Liverpool. And I remember one in particular where we were talking about what will it take for Liverpool to move on from being seen as a stepping stone as a club. And we said, obviously, to certain players, when it comes into a geography thing, you will always have your Real Madrids and your Barcelonas. But Liverpool, now with the progression that we're seeing, we can see that players are choosing to join Liverpool. Players are now also, hopefully, looking at Liverpool as it's a club that, we can challenge for the Premier League. Yes, you've got City there, like we was all just saying, but challenge to win silverware. And that is the mentality that, is running around all the players at the club. And Liverpool Football Club need to make the players as well aware that if you perform to a certain level, if you're going to help us achieve winning silverware, you will be rewarded for it. And that front three, for definite, they're a big part in the progression that we're seeing. They're fantastic. And it's the same with the other players at Liverpool. I think if you're a player that is looking from outside of Liverpool right now, and maybe you're aware that Liverpool might be interested in signing you down the line, because you do, as football players, you will know if a club is interested in you. You might be looking at Liverpool and might be thinking, well, if I go there and I add my services to them as well, there's a chance that I'll win something. And if I do really well as well, I could end up being paid just as good as what I would be to any other team. Now, you see that Liverpool are starting to sign players over our rivals. We've added some quality players to our ranks recently, and you've heard that other top teams have been in for them as well, which is obvious because of the quality of player that we're targeting and bringing in now. So a big part of that will be that, as horrible as it sounds, and we don't like it, but a big part of football these days is money. So as much as we all keep talking about contracts don't mean a lot anymore, contracts is still a big part of football as well. So players will want to be up there earning. They want to feel like, I'm a big player. I play for a big team. Liverpool Football Club is a massive team. I want to be one of the highest earned players out there as well. There's a lot of other stuff that means that they can earn good money in football, but to be earning good wages at Liverpool Football Club, to be trying to win silverware as well, it's all a big mentality, and that is what Liverpool Football Club is now starting to. It's how we're acting. It really is. And if you look back at 3 or 4 years ago, and we were talking about, why do Liverpool always sell our best players? Why do these our top players, they perform well for a year or two and then end up moving on or whatever. And I think yes, players do have too much power, but if you're keeping a player happy by saying, look, if you're doing well, we're going to reward you by paying you nicely. We're going to try and keep all the best players, and we're targeting the other top players out there as well to bring them in to help us try and win things. As a Liverpool fan, that's how I want to see my club act. I want to see my club trying their best to keep the best players at the club and to try and sign the top players as well to come in to join, because then if one of the players all of a sudden decides they want to leave down the line, at least then I know that my club has done as much as they could to try and keep that player, because we've seen it over the last couple of years. So many people saying, like FSG, all they care about is money, and they're going to sell a player like Coutinho because of how much he was worth or whatever. But if Liverpool are willing to pay these players top money, it will also warn off some other clubs, because if you're a football player and you're earning 150 to 200k a week and a club is interested in you, but they're in another league that can't offer that wages, that is going to go in Liverpool's favour as well, because it also narrows down the amount of clubs that could sign these top players. Because let's face it, like I say, money does talk, and today's game, football, it's all about money. So again, to summarise it all, it's that big mentality that Liverpool Football Club, they're acting like big dogs again out there, and it sounds stupid, but that's what it comes down to. And Liverpool are financially a big club out there, and we're starting to act like it again.
Cash, Daz kind of touched on it there. There are always naysayers out there, even within their own fan base. So we've tied down Mo Salah, we've tied down Bobby Firmino. It looks like we're about to tie down Sadio Mane to long-term deals to keep these players at Liverpool Football Club for the peak years of their career. But yet there'll always be some prick who'll turn around and say, yeah, contracts don't mean shit though. You know what? They may not mean shit in regards that people can get out of them. The player wants to force the way out, they can do it. But what it does do is let you know that at this moment in time, that player is comfortable enough with what's happening at our club to commit his peak years to Liverpool Football Club.
I think the difference is now the shift in mentality. Like previously, we might have got a player to sign a new deal as a way of, protecting a very sellable asset. Whereas now we're trying to get players to commit to long-term deals to preserve the continuity that Jurgen Klopp is building up year upon year upon year. So yes, I do agree largely with that point, in the sense that contracts are not really worth the paper they're written on, insofar as they can be reneged upon very easily. However, if you look at the motivation behind signing the contract from both club and player, then you can say, okay, well, we accept this principle, but we say with our club, with our team as it stands, it's about more than just ensuring that we get a good seal for the player if they choose to leave in a year's time. It's actually about displaying to the world and displaying to the players that we've got a sense of continuity here, and that you don't need to have that mentality of, I'll just sign and then want to leave in a year, because you can do everything that you want to do here. So I think a lot of that principle is true, but it does depend on the club you're at and the motivation behind signing a new deal. Because if the motivation is purely to protect an asset, then yes, I agree with that cynical view. But I think with us now, it's purely about continuity and it's about reward, things that are both valuable in terms of achieving success.
Chris, is this a very, very clever piece of business by both the owners and the manager, in terms that they bring players in and they're trying to keep them hungry? So they're not giving them too much too soon, they're not overpaying them, they're letting them know that if you come in, as Daz touched on earlier on, you hit the ground running, you put in the performances, you do what the manager tells you to do, and the group succeeds, and you will be paid handsomely for your rewards.
Well, I can only imagine that the subject of a new deal is discussed at the time that the player is signed, and it's not just reactionary to how that player has performed. Otherwise, I think Mane would have been offered a new deal just as quickly as maybe Salah did, given his importance to the team in the previous season to last. There is a question as to why Mane was offered a deal after Mo Salah, considering Mo Salah hadn't even been at the club for 12 months. Obviously, again, the skeptics out there, isn't there, that perhaps say, well, maybe, Mane was thinking about leaving or whatever. Maybe it was something surrounding the new role. Maybe he was told he'd be having a new role once Salah came in, and it got shelved till he had played a season there and felt it out a little bit, and so what he thought about playing there permanently going forward or whatever. You don't know. But I think taking all the science out of it, whether it's good business, bad business, whatever. I mean, it's only good business, isn't it? Lengthening the contract of one of your best players is only a good thing, and it perhaps doesn't even need discussing, because it's only going to one of two ways, isn't it? One, we keep the player long term, which is great for us on the pitch, or two, the player decides he wants to leave, wants to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona, and we get huge money in which to replace him with. I think I'm a lot more comfortable these days, and I think the law of averages says that one of these top players, and we've got a lot of top players now, not just one or two, where in the past, if we lost one, we were only left with Steven Gerrard. What we've got now is a plethora of top players, where if we lose one, they're replaceable. They're replaceable because we know we're bringing top players in all the time. I think for every one top player we lose, we're bringing 3 or 4 in, to fill in other positions anyway. So I'm not that worried. And I think what this does here is it just protects the asset. I think that's largely what a contract does. It lets that player know that he's valued. And this is Sadio Mane we're talking about. I think it's going to be massively important to us this season. So if it means he stays long term, brilliant. If it doesn't, well, we put a lot of money in our pocket and we look like we're very capable of replacing players. God forbid that's the route, because I'm a huge Sadio Mane fan. I think he is going to be massive for us this season. Just it's that simple, really.
I was talking about major assets at Liverpool Football Club this week, seeing Ragnar Klavan leave the club for Cagliari for a fee of around £2 million, mate. So I just wanted to quickly ask you, I'll start with you. What's been your favourite moment of having Klavan at the club? Because he's become a bit of a hero to so many people in a kind of fucked up weird way. It's brilliant. I love it. Klavan door all the way.
I don't know. I don't know whether I can pick a favourite moment, to be honest, because I feel like I've got a bit of a mind blank, because I don't know. So many people would say, I don't know. What was it? He scored a goal, didn't he?
He scored a really late goal against Burnley that gave us a win.
Yeah, that's the one that so many people always say to me that they really liked him for. But for me, I just think I always kind of took the mick with him, like just saying that, like, he's Mr. Skills at the back. He always was a bit of a calm presence. Like, even when it looked like, remember when we had Sacco at the back and he was like a bit of a baby giraffe sometimes. Good defender, but his legs looked like he always made me nervous. Whereas Klavan, even when you should be nervous, Klavan just looked calm, and it was like, no, seriously, you need to just get rid of the ball, Klavan. Like, you've got 2 players running in at you, and Klavan would try and just calmly play it out. I don't know, like, fair play to him. Like, I think Klopp wants to show the youth players at the club, and maybe youth players that we may sign in the future as well, that there's a pathway. And it's what we've been talking about on this podcast, that mentality of, it's not just about spending and buying top players, but just, quality youth players as well. We've got the right manager for that, and Klopp wants to show the youth players. We've seen it with Brewster. There's a clear pathway for you into the team. If you perform well, you will get that, not just rewarded with a top contract, but you will, as a youth player, you will get game time. I'm talking about Nat Phillips here. He had a good pre-season. Klopp didn't go in and sign a centre-back in the transfer window, and I thought there was talk that Klavan is down to the last 12 months, and they could have extended his contract by another 12 months, and I thought that was going to be the case. But I think this just shows that Klopp rates Phillips, I think, personally, and maybe there was a little conversation there, and Klavan realised that, maybe Phillips might get game time over Klavan this year. Pathway for Phillips, possibly. Gomez, obviously, is starting this season as well, so I rate Klopp's ability, to spot a talent in the youth development, with Phillips as well. So, I respect Klavan doesn't want to sit there and not play, and he wanted some game time. So I respect his decision to leave the club, and I wish him all the best. At his age, he's not going to light up the team when he comes and plays. I think that I would have preferred us to sign a centre back Because if we got an injury, then I was looking at the experience side of it. Gomez, I like the fact that he's playing centre back now, and the more games he plays, the better he will get, because it's about maturing in that centre back role for him. Phillips isn't experienced, so Clavan would have been the experienced head if we haven't got Lovren there. If he come back from injury and we needed another experienced player, Matip as well. Everyone says about his injury, so yeah, it's a weird one that Clavan's gone. But as far as a favourite moment with Clavan, I think there was just so many moments that he just made me laugh, and as much as it was like I was taking a mick at the same time, I don't really remember a time where really Clavan did much majorly wrong. He just was a steady Eddie. But yeah,
he's certainly the best Estonian to ever play for Liverpool Football Club. I think we can safely give him that accolade. Cash, have you got a favourite Ragnar Klavan moment, or is it just something about the dude you wanted to have a chat about? Because I realise favourite or epic moments of his are at a minimum.
I think the most epic moment's got to be the Burnley goal, doesn't it? I mean,
that was fucking going in anyway. That drives me mad.
Like,
if he robbed that goal off me, I'm smacking the head off him in the dressing room.
Well, Lovren did on his part an Instagram post "Miss you, bro," said something along the lines of "How dare you steal my goal?" Yeah, I think it's going to be that, really, just purely because he was an unexpected scorer. The nature of that win was so good. I think Jurgen Klopp actually referred to it as one of his favourite wins of the season. So that was good because obviously, I think it was the only goal he scored. And then obviously there was that whole sort of sequence.
Scored against Derby as well.
Oh, did he? Sorry, pardon me.
Yeah.
Only Premier League goal he scored.
Do you not remember that one, Cash? No, it was a bicycle kick from the halfway line. It's a beautiful goal.
So,
how do you not remember that one, Cash?
There's also the whole thing of he loved a good old these sort of ridiculous turns when there was no one there, and he would pirouette and then come on the ball, and the things that probably wouldn't have made him in any way noteworthy when social media wasn't such a phenomenon, but obviously now it's a meme within, or it's a fucking image or whatever within seconds. And I always thought that was quite funny because it was this notoriously, infamously unspectacular player doing things that were gratuitous and unnecessary when really he could have just went forward with the ball, and it just made me laugh. I think but as a player, he's not someone that I was dying to keep, but equally wasn't someone I was dying to get rid of. I think that's a decision purely based on the player's desire. It has to be, because it's not financial. And so you just got to wish him good luck and say all the best, and we'll always have Burnley. I think with just a point in relation to what Dal said about pathway to the first team. I think Ryan Brewster's been given a squad number this season because he's posted on his Instagram about the 24 shirt. So maybe he's been given the number 24. Does anyone know?
I haven't got a clue. I'd have to check it up. I haven't had a chance to have a read.
When you see that 24 on the shirt, which seems pretty clear to me. So, if we're looking at that, that's clearly a first sort of team squad member number, if you like. So yeah. But I think with big old Raggy, just good luck. I think he exceeded expectations in the sense that there were none, and he did a bit better than that. So
I've got to be honest, Cash. My heart broke. My heart absolutely fucking broke when I found that the Super Cup was in Tallinn and we were in a Champions League final. And big old Raggy could have had that send off. He could have had the Super Cup final in the capital of his home country, but it just wasn't to be.
Estonia's most capped player. It would have been really, really good, but I think he wasn't meant to be, like you say. And it is fair to say that had we won the Champions League, I don't think he would have been a key feature anyway. So good. Is it even? Can you even say someone that's been with you for one season's a servant? I don't even know. Was he with one season?
It's been longer than one season.
No. 2016.
Has he been there for 2 years?
Yeah, well, my highlight was his all-round performance and remember the game against Everton, Marnie's 94th minute winner.
Oh yeah,
he played in that game. He was fantastic in that game. Yeah, he was brilliant.
That inconspicuous that I didn't even realise how long he's been at the club. He'll probably rock up again as a coach in the future, and no one will know he's come back.
Yeah, Adam fucking Bogdan is still getting a wage, even though he's up at Hibs, that prick.
He's even I live with a couple of Hibs fans, or with one Hibs fan, and he's not been well received even up there. He's made a couple of mistakes already. So.
Oh well, shame. Chris, as Cash touched on, you can never knock a player that's getting towards the end of their career wanting to go and play minutes, because that's what you want players to want. You don't want players happy to sit on a bench and take aways. They want to play. They're footballers. They love the game.
That's true, and he's not embarrassed himself at Liverpool either, has he? He's been steady Eddie. He's come in and done. It's one of those, does what it says on the 10 jobs. Fair play to him. He's done well for us, and we can all wish him well. He's not going to be any major great loss, but I'd be captain. We'd have all been pretty chuffed he was around to fill in when needed. So yeah, I think he's one of them players. I think lots of squads would benefit from having, but we do have numbers there, don't we? Albeit not all experienced players. We do have numbers there now, especially with Nat Phillips coming through, and obviously this young lad from Ajax has been told he's got a path to the first team as well. So, it's he's not going to get a lot of minutes, is he? You're not going to waste minutes, really, I think, on a player who isn't much better than the younger players there. So, when you can give them experience and they can possibly give you the next 10 years. So, yeah, wish him well. Hope he does well. Where has he gone again? It's gone. Mine's gone blank, sorry.
Calgary.
Sorry,
I didn't. Calgary. Is it Calgary or Cagliari? I can never pronounce that one properly.
I don't know.
It's Calgary, isn't it? Calgary.
Depends how Italian you are, I suppose.
Yeah.
He wants to go and live in Sardinia. Why not?
Bolognese or spagbol.
He's one of the few footballers, by the way, that can still rock a pair of sideburns as well, which I think is an important thing we have to say here with Clavy. Dials, before we finish up tonight, the last thing I wanted to have a little chat about was a bit of a James Milner appreciation section, because I wrote this dude off when I remember sitting in the Aviva Stadium last summer, not the one just gone the year before, the summer Coutinho was starting to kick up. And I remember Jurgen Klopp coming into the press conference after the Atletico Bilbao game and sitting there and listening to him saying the phrase, having James Milner being able to play in midfield now is like a new sign. And I remember saying, fuck off, Jurgen, in my head. Like, seriously, who are you trying to kid? What's happening with Coutinho? Will you stop with this talk about James Milner in midfield, for fuck's sake? He's finished. And I went on a podcast and I was open and I said, I don't want James Milner anywhere near our midfield. I fucking love James Milner, Dan. I fucking love James Milner. He's been nothing but awesome in that midfield over the last couple of seasons. And I have had to eat my words time and time and time again. And I just want to take a few minutes just to say how damn good he is.
He's unreal. He's one of them players. He's a no-nonsense player. I think every team needs... Chris, I think you just said every team would benefit from a team of like Clavant, or have a Clavant in them. I think every team needs a James Milner. Exactly, And, when we signed him, I think a lot of Liverpool fans was like, why? And I said, well, experience for one. He's going to bring experience to us. And that was the main thing that I thought. And I thought, look, it'd be a threat when it comes to deliveries and stuff like that. But what he's actually brought to us, and actually being able to watch him week in, week out, he does everything. He literally does everything. I think the one thing that I would say about James Milner that I see people, when I have arguments with people about James Milner and they say, oh, he's rubbish. He's rubbish. I wouldn't put him in the first 11. And I say, well, what do you base that on? And they go, oh, he don't score goals. And I go, I don't expect James Milner to be banging in, 20 goals a season. But you look at any other midfielder in our team and tell me who really bangs in tons of goals in midfield for us. He's.
Central midfielders tend not to, really, don't they? In general,
exactly.
If you look at the numbers.
Exactly.
You have exceptions like Gerrard every now and again and a Lampard, but in general, they don't, do they?
No, exactly. And I mean, the names that you just threw out there, ridiculous players, like absolutely ridiculous. But James Milner, when he's on the pitch, you know what you're going to get with James Milner. He finds space. In first game of the season for us, when Liverpool needed him or needed a bit of movement in certain areas, if James Milner, I was just watching him, and if he all of a sudden, or Liverpool, a player was on the ball, and for instance, there was no pass ahead, Milner would find a bit of space to create room for a pass, and it often he will drag a player out as well, and it's his drive, it's the way his brain works, and it's his commitment to, get up and down the pitch as well, because he's one of the first players that I know, if the team wins the ball back, the opposing team, and they want to counter against us or whatever, I know damn well that if James Milner is in midfield against us, that bloke is going to do everything he can to get back in. And he will also at the same time be telling the other lads to get back in. He's not just concentrating on where he needs to be, he's concentrating on everything around him. And one, that comes with experience, but two, I just don't think there's many James Milners about. I really don't think there's players that are built like he is. We've laughed and joked about him on many of my streams, and like I say, there's a lot of people that talk about him. And the one thing that I would say is the only time I don't like to see James Milner on the pitch is when Jordan Henson is. That's the only thing. I think James Milner and Jordan Henson, I see Jordan Henson kind of going down the same path as Milner. I think they're very similar. And I think when Liverpool play, I like to see either one of them on the pitch, because I think they're both engines, and I like to see it mixed up a little bit for me. But yeah, he's got the delivery, he's got the defensive side of his game, he's got the brain, he's the experience on and off the pitch.
He's taken over social media as well. He's decided that's something he wants to be fucking brilliant at as well.
Well, that come about because everyone started calling him boring, wouldn't it? I think, people started saying how boring he was, and the man is far from boring. I mean, he's funnier than most people, from what I can tell. And I really did any of you guys see the video that was on the Liverpool YouTube channel of him and Robbo?
Yeah, doing the like weird questions and answers thing.
Yeah,
funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was so funny to see them two like bouncing off each other.
You see them having a similar sense of humor. I think like that whole like regional humor, like Glaswegian and like Yorkshire. They really bounced off each other well, I thought.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I think the other players that look up to him, and I think the one thing that having James Milner in our squad will benefit us is because of Klopp wanting to bring a lot of these youth players in and stuff like that, and the pathways and stuff that we've been talking about. I think the youth players would do well to look at James Milner and how fit he is and how available he always is. And if they actually look up to him and take note of him, then they could extend their playing careers as well. Because let's face it, what is he, 32? That man could probably go on for many a year yet, playing the way he does with that engine of his. And it's because he stayed so conditioned over the years. You hear so
it is, and there's the lesson, isn't it, to any youngster. This is what I'm 32 and I'm fit. You're 19. You're looking at Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm fitter than you. Yeah. If you want to get fit when you're 32, you do what I do all summer. Yeah, and you
don't
go off making Instagram videos like Harrius. You train, and you train, and you come back hungrier, better, fitter, more concentrated and more willing to go that extra mile. And I tell you what, if him just being at the club just for that, even if he doesn't play many games, which I think he will, and that's where it's gone to now. We're playing tomorrow. Yeah. And anybody's starting lineup, if you were to ask 100 Liverpool fans what their starting lineup, 99 of them have got Milner in it. Whereas go back 2 months ago, after we'd just signed, Keita had come in and we just signed Fabinho, how many people starting lineups had Milner in it? One game, and we're all like, wow, we can't be doing without that in the next game. So it just shows you what an amazing athlete, professional he is, to have put that amount of work in over the summer to come in and basically go, I don't care that I'm 32, I don't care that you've just spent 45 million on him, I'm playing in this midfield. It must be brilliant for Klopp. It must be absolutely heaven for him to have that in his squad.
Says a lot for sugar-free Ribena, does.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that the one player that you would say out of all the lads there, just to round off what I was saying, was, if Klopp had a player that he could say is everything that he would want, you've got to say it's James Milner, because the work rate, over a career, how he's conditioned himself. Klopp would absolutely adore him. He would adore him the way he could use him with the youth players, like what me and Chris was just saying. If you could keep him about, even if he's not going to play, Klopp would want to keep him there just to have a little whisper in the youth players' ears, saying, this is what you got to do. This is what I was doing at your age. You could even go one better than me by doing this, this, and this, especially with how, the training's developed over the years as well. Milner, he could end up going into coaching for Liverpool, and I hope he does. I really do, because I think that'd be a fantastic idea.
I think he'd be an amazing manager. Actually, I really do think he'd be spot on.
Gosh, I have a question for you about James Milner. Is he in fact the Benjamin Button of football?
He seems to be, doesn't he? At least sort of like physically from like the face down. I think he obviously is aging in the face, but like he just defies like sort of like reason when it comes to fitness. And but that's not an accident. You know, he doesn't drink. He's teetotal. He's completely like he lives his life in a way that's like completely monk-like, but still seems to have fun with it, which I think is a balance that we're all trying to find. Living a healthy life and not like feeling like we're just compromising and, you know, not enjoying ourselves. But there's just nothing to dislike about James Milner. For a couple of examples, like I check his Instagram regularly because sometimes I need to pick me up, and he's hilarious. And he's just announced, like in September, he's doing like a charity match with Stilian Petrov, like for various cancer charities. Like that's the sort of stuff he does. Like in his spare time, he goes to Glasgow to seal that and to arrange that. It's like then he does things. Sorry?
Plays football. When he's not playing football, he's playing football.
Yeah, well, exactly. When he's not playing football, he's arranging charitable football. It's like, you know, it's just totally James Milner. And then
I'd say he probably makes his own Ribena as well. He probably stamps his own fruit in the back garden.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like you're just talking about Celtic there momentarily. Like how Brendan Rodgers would love to have him back, like in that Celtic midfield. Like he would still be a great player in so many teams. And what is really good about James Milner as well is that he is more instrumental than people give him credit for. So, for example, I was watching the other day the Champions League quarterfinal first leg, the one against Man City, where obviously we hammer them. But everybody remembers Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's goal, but I'm sure everybody doesn't remember the fact that that ball comes back from Firmino, hits Milner, who inadvertently, but probably like kind of purposefully, hits the pass straight to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's feet. So he actually gets an assist for that, but it's not through like any mad skill. It's not through anything. It's just about being switched on, being like anticipating the fall of the ball, and then having the skill to execute it in a way favourable to your team when received. And that kind of quality, he showed that particularly in the Champions League over and over and over again last season. So I think people that insinuate that he's a busted flush in a technical sense, in a playing sense, it's the lie. Yeah, I don't think he's ever been world class. It's not like he's diminished from being world class and now he's ordinary. I don't think he's ever been
the top assister in the Champions League last season.
So I think he's a classic example of a player who, like Jordan Henderson, has absolutely used every iota of his God-given or whatever you believe in given ability to become an excellent player. So I think any criticism that's leveled at him, it's just false, because I think we all wish we could have the resolve and mentality that James Milner has.
Chris, last word on James Milner, as Tom used to call him, James Milner. I'm going to give it to you, buddy.
Pretty much all been covered there, but I think one of the things I like about him the most, we've touched on all of his fitness and everything, and he does get numbers, he does actually get goals, he does get assists, and he's just a good all-round footballer. But we've touched on him as a person, but what we've not really mentioned is what an actual leader he is anyway on the pitch. And we've got a lot of those on the pitch at the moment, and he is another one. He's always talking players through games. He's not averse as well to dishing out a bollocking when needs to. I think that's what I like to see a lot of leaders on the pitch. And he's one who's earned the right to be a leader. He's been there and done that. He's got a couple of league winners medals. He's got a ruck of international caps. And if you are, I'm bringing up Trent. It's not like I'm picking on Trent here. I can call Gomez or anybody really. They're all younger than him. They're all as subordinate, really, aren't they? They've all got to look up to him and listen to him, and he does have that air about him, doesn't he? While at the same time, as you've touched on there, he can be their mate as well. He seems to tread along that line between being their sort of superior. He's the vice captain of the team, where he's probably the most captain-like on the pitch. But he's also one of the lads as well. He does that brilliantly, and again, that's just down to his experience. And I know I see a lot of talk about how young our squad is in general. go back into pre-season when we play Manchester United, and Mourinho was moaning about having his kids, and the Liverpool side was 1 year on average younger. It's great having a lot of young players, but you do need experience, and the kind of experience that he brings to the side, I think it's worth a lot more than what we paid for him, which was nothing. It's amazing that we paid nothing for him. He is an absolute professional.
That is absolutely beautiful. Cash, you want to come back in before we finish up?
Yeah, just two final points, not to take the final word away from Chris, but I think it's an important thing to highlight. If he stays at Liverpool beyond this season, which I'm hoping he does, I think they'll extend his deal. So that would see him through to the 2019. That would match his second longest spell at a club, 4 years at Newcastle. He'd have to spend another year on top of that to match what he did, so between 2010 and 15. So you can tell from that, he's clearly happy at the club. And I think when he looks back on his career when it's over, I think he'll credit Liverpool with being one of the best clubs, if not the best club in his career, which has been pretty impressive, really, when you look at the clubs he's played for. The second point, people would say he hasn't been good or he hasn't contributed enough, particularly in a goal-scoring sense. James Milner made 147 appearances for Man City over 5 years, scored 13 goals. James Milner has made 97 appearances for Liverpool, a third less, and has scored 12 goals. So when you look at that goal return in relation to, spells at various clubs, he's actually more productive at Liverpool than he was at Man City. Now, that may well pertain to the fact that he didn't play as regularly or he changed position at Man City quite a lot, etc., and so on. But it does add, credence to the argument that he is more productive in front of goal than people give him credit for. And I think that's a good sort of summation of his abilities, really.
He also played a season for us at left back as well, so that would have taken him out of the line of striking. Guys, you know what? We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much to Daz from On The Bench LFC. Thank you to Cash. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to James Milner for making me look like a fool. But most importantly, thank you to you guys for listening. We'll be back with a post-match point show straight after the West Ham game. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week.